Hello, everyone. Today I'm inviting y'all in to discuss the downfall of the family. Something that I have struggled with pretty much all my life. And at 57, I'm kind of like tired of the dysfunctional stuff that we have normalized in families. And I know we all grew up where what goes on in this house stays in this house, and all of that was fine back then. But now, when it becomes a part of your everyday life that hinders you from being the best version of yourself, when children are involved, when people continue to create a narrative that affects people's livelihood, I think it's time to really address this downfall of the family. So a lot of y'all know me, a lot of y'all don't. So I have always felt as if I was the black sheep of the family. I always been different. I always did things kind of like my way. I really didn't follow other people's rules and regulations because growing up, I didn't feel like people cared enough to even consider me or how I felt. So because of that, it created this person that was totally disconnected from people. So I grew up really not having feelings. I went with the flow. I did what I needed to do, but allowing people in my space to really know how to love and all of that, that wasn't a part of my lifestyle. So in that, I made a lot of wrong choices growing up because, like I say, not knowing that I was looking for love or looking for validation or looking for all these things that people say we shouldn't be looking for. But to be honest with me and myself, I was looking for validation. I was looking for a sense of identity because I just didn't see it in the people that I was around. And I never understood why I was always the problem. So I been doing some healing work, really working on myself, really checking in with me, to see the things that I may have caused to further these situations along, correcting those mistakes, and really trying to help my children heal from choices I made. Not only heal from choices I made, but just not being that parent that don't accept accountability or responsibility for the things that I didn't know. Just because I didn't know didn't mean it gave me the right not to try to learn. And in those cases, my children have been damaged based on decisions I made. And because some of them hold on to it, it's easy for the family to come in and use those things against me, which try to turn my children against me. So I always find myself having these conversations with my children about, no, this is not how that really happened. This is kind of like this is how it really went. But because I didn't grow up with my siblings or with my family consistently, then they really don't know me as a person. They just know behavior patterns that they choose to hold on to. So we're going to talk about the downfall of the family. So I got a couple of notes here. So if you see me I'm just looking on my laptop at my notes. So the downfall of the family. When unhealed pain becomes a family tradition. The downfall of a family rarely begins with one argument. It happens when unhealed wounds, jealousy, favoritism, competition, misunderstanding, pride, and unresolved offenses are passed from one generation to the next. And this is what's going on in my family. I could speak for my family because I'm a part of this family. Siblings rivalries is often only the symptoms of the deeper problem is what was never addressed. So when our parents have their own trauma that they never address, their parents have their own trauma that they never address, because when they grew up, you didn't have a voice. So you just went with the flow of whatever it was, and trying to express yourself wasn't heard of. So now the way they dealt with stuff is passed down to their children, and now we're passing those same tools down to our children, whether it work or not, they're being passed down. So sometimes siblings grow up in the same house, but experience completely different versions of the same family. One may remember love while another remembers rejection. One may have felt celebrated while another felt overlooked. When those wounds are never healed, childhood competition can become adult resentment. This is what I'm dealing with right now because, like I said, as a child, I spent most of my time in Arkansas. I didn't really move to California till I was in 12, 13 years old, and that's where I made California my home. So my upbringing, my surrounding, my experiences have been different from my siblings. So, and a lot of times they expect me to feel or respond and relate the way they do, but I don't have the same foundation. We have the same parents, but we don't have the same experiences. So what fuels sibling rivalry? Comparison. When children are constantly compared, they can begin competing for love, attention, recognition, and acceptance. That was me. I was competing for acceptance, recognitions, and the attention because, like I said, I really didn't come to California and actually live with my siblings till I was like 12 or 13. So I was a country girl. I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, around my grandparents, going from Arkansas to LA as a child because the adults realized that it was a difference there. Even though I didn't understand it, people knew that I per se was being treated different than the other ones. So a lot of times I wasn't with my family. So having to come here and trying to find my place and trying to be accepted in a world that I wasn't familiar with took me on a path of rebelling. So I found that the streets had more love for me than I had within my home. So moving here at 12, 13 years old permanently to running away at 15, I really don't know my siblings like that. They don't know me like that. So the things that they have expect from me, or the way they respect me to respond, is just different because I just only know how to be me. So, and favoritism, real or perceived favoritism, can create wounds that survive long after the parents are gone. Both our parents have passed away. My mom passed in July. My dad passed 3 months later. So we don't have no parents. We never dealt with these issues. And even when we talked about it, everybody failed to make it a point to misunderstand me. I was always the problem child, or always the one that had because I had a different opinion, because I stand 10 toes down on business, because I function in a different manner, then I was always that person that had to take the bulk of the negativity because I felt I was the one singled out. They was favoritism. They had the relationship. They had the connections. They had all of that. I just didn't feel like I ever fitted in. So I always found myself moving out of state or staying in different cities, but always trying to prove and win they love. Like, I'll go get the big house, make sure everybody got somewhere to stay. I had a car to make sure everybody had something to drive. Everything I had, I always shared and gave because I was looking for that sense of validation and not to feel like I was singled out. And then jealousy. Sometimes the issue isn't what you've done to someone, it's what your life represents to them. Some people will always hate the idea of you. I grew up knowing that my family hate the idea of me. And it's because I exposed myself to different things outside of my family. Just like I said, I ran away at 15. When I ran away at 15, I ran away to a boyfriend house that I didn't even know for a whole month. But that's how much I had a plan to get out of my situation. When I moved to his house, his mom had 8 children, and she was ready to have a break. So when I ran away and moved there at 15, I was responsible for those 8 children at 16 years old. Mimicking, not that I knew how to mend a house or be a woman of a house or none of that, but I had seen it all my life. All my aunties is married. My mom and dad is married. So I always seen relationships and how houses was functioning. So it was easy for me to mimic that and raise those children. So running away, getting in that type of environment at 15, and then selling drugs. So the only way I knew how to make money was to sell drugs. I started selling drugs as soon as I got back to California, because I had a plan in my head that I wasn't going to live under those conditions. So the easiest way for me to have money to move how I wanted to was selling drugs. So on the way to school, I sold weed. Rolled up back then, y'all smoked joints. I had a Ziploc bag of joints, and I used to sell them, and that's what kept me with my money. When I moved out at 15 and started navigating myself through the city and meeting different people, then I went from that to selling coke. So then, so I always had the ability to hustle. The hustle was always in me by nature, but because I didn't have the guidance, it was targeted in different ways. So even at 57 years old, I'm still trying to figure out foundation, because my whole life was kind of lived in survival mode. So we're going to go to, that was the jealousy part. I don't really think, I never used the word jealousy, because I don't feel like this was nothing to be jealous of, because anything I ever had, I feel like I always shared. But some people just hate the idea of people who don't move like they move. So unresolved childhood trauma. Adult bodies do not automatically produce healed adults. Generational dysfunction is fueled when people refuse to heal. Some people just refuse to heal because, like I say, when you don't expose yourself to different stuff, then you start believing your behaviors and the things that you do are normal. And it's not, because you can't keep painting the same narrative and having the same story and getting the same results and think that that is how life is lived. And like I say, I experienced all types of relationships. Selling drugs, I met a certain type of people. Having a business mind, I met a certain type of people. Fighting in the streets all the time, I met a certain type of people. Being around positive adults that believed in me gave me a sense of security that one day I was going to grow into something. So I surrounded myself with a variety of type of people, and each person I took something from to help me develop. That's my process. And I get so tired of having to defend. I didn't go the way y'all went. I didn't go the way nobody went. I went the way that God chose for me to go, because he had a plan that was bigger than my feelings. I didn't know God had a plan for me, and all the stuff that I was doing, all the choices I made, all the things that I went through, I never in my mind thought God had a plan for me. I used to go to church when people introduced me to church as an adult. I used to go to church knowing I'm finna leave church and go drop off an ounce of weed or coke or whatever that was in my purse. So I didn't have that relationship. I just knew it was something in me that was greater than the choices I was making, and it was something always drawing me. So it wasn't until life started lifing for me, because like I said, I always had the ability to have money. Money was never an issue for me, and that's why I never valued it, because I always hustled. I could always make money. And when you have money, and when you have the means, and when you have things, then you attract a certain type of people that are users. And like I said, I lived in survival mode. Half of the stuff from my childhood, I don't even remember. I don't even consider a lot of the actions that I made because it wasn't the person that I was becoming to be. It was just part of that process. So that goes back to the unresolved trauma, generation dysfunctions, unhealed situation. It's always one person that choose something different, that choose to heal, that choose to take accountability. Whether it look like that to somebody else, you just develop a more spiritual relationship with God where you are ready for corrections, you are ready to mature, you are ready to be something different. Because one thing about life is it's hard trying to live life without a structured foundation. I could speak that for myself because I didn't have one. I could always go back home, but go home to what? Because my home to me wasn't home. My home was in the streets. So that's just part of why I felt so disconnected. And then family stories. Families sometimes assign permanent roles like the favorite, the problem child, the successful one, the irresponsible one, the outsider, or the one blamed for everything. People grow, but the family refuses to update perspective. That's my situation. I done been the problem child. I done been the successful one. I done been the irresponsible one. I done been the outsider. And I also been the one that's blamed for everything. But I never been the favorite. But that's the perspective that my family still have of me. All of those negative things. Even though when I transitioned, I always took them on the ride with me. When I started doing violence prevention, I brought them into the work. When I came across some money and opened the restaurant, I brought them into the business. I mean, it's nothing that I have never did that I didn't include my family. So I don't know how they keep painting this narrative of me. When I ran away at 15, I wasn't with y'all. I wasn't there. So the stuff that y'all hearing from the streets and the people that y'all allowing to put all this little negative stuff in y'all ear, that's on y'all. That's not on me. Because like I say, I'm accountable to how I lived and how I wasn't there. I wasn't there when I was supposed to be, because I didn't know how to be there. I didn't know how to show up for stuff because every time I showed up, it was a problem. So I made a decision to stay away. Y'all say my kids, I turned my kids against the family. I didn't turn my kids against the family. I introduced my kids to different opportunities and different things, different experiences, so they could pick and choose how they did life. I ain't turned nobody. I ain't even that type of person. Then I'm going around lying on people. Nobody I deal with even know my family. Nobody I deal with even, I don't even have to have conversations about y'all because I'm not in settings where we're gossiping. So I don't know why it's always, because Nina somewhere being messy. No, Nina somewhere telling her story. Because my story is how God used me to heal other people. Just because my truth exposed the lie y'all tell yourself don't have nothing to do with me. I have to be obedient to the path that I'm going in life. So I'm over defending that. You know, I just wish people would get a new storyline. At some point, everybody must be allowed to become somebody different. Who they were years ago shouldn't matter from who I was years ago. And even in the bad choices I made, I was never a bad person. So can't nobody ever say I was a bad person or I treated them wrong or I was scandalous or none of that, because that's never been my thing. I was immature in certain decisions I made. I was heartless. My delivery was strong. So those are the things that I could admit, that I might have said something that hurt your feelings, or I might have stood on my truth that y'all felt was a lie, but those are the things. But I don't see myself as a bad person that went around harming people. So I just wish y'all get a different storyline. Now let's go to when the parents are gone. My parents are not turning in their grave, because a lot of people say when families are in disarray, "Ooh, your parents must be turning." No, they're not turning in their grave, because they knew exactly what we were dealing with as kids. And sometimes parents leave behind property. Some parents leave property, traditions, and memories, but they can also leave behind unresolved conflict. The next generation has a choice: continue the dysfunction or confront it and heal. I'm confronting because I'm healing. So y'all not going to keep making my life a living hell, because every time I come visit or every time I come around, soon as I get back to where I came from, somebody calling me saying, "Girl, they said you said." I don't say nothing. When I came this time, I didn't even see nobody. I promise y'all, I was there for, I think, about 10 to 14 days. I didn't even see nobody. I went to church. I did my church stuff. I did the conference. I dealt with, that was it. I didn't even see other people, because I didn't even want people to say that, "Oh, Nina said," whatever. I didn't even visit. Even when people was calling me, "Can you do my hair? Can we meet?" Come in. I didn't want to see that, because I don't know who's the corporate. I don't know who's running back, painting this narrative of y'all is always in my mouth on some negative stuff. I love my siblings. I love my family. I wish. That's why I always sacrifice to make sure Christmas was at my house. Thanksgiving was at my house. All the holidays was at my house. I ain't asked nobody for a dime. If you brought something, you brought something. But I always tried to create those type of environments. So this time when I came to California, I didn't even see nobody. I was there on business, trying to figure out when I move back, what's that going to look like for me outside of dealing with this family. 2 days later, Nina was here and she told something. I ain't even talked to nobody. So these are the things that we have to expose, because if you don't expose it, you're going to continue to live in these cycles. And I have to free myself up. So when parents are gone, sometimes parents leave behind property, tradition, and memories, but they can also leave behind unresolved conflict. The next generation has a choice: continue the dysfunction, confront it, and heal. My kids that have a problem with me will continue the dysfunction, because they like to be in those type of settings with my siblings when they have this thing about all the stuff I didn't do right, all the things I didn't do right. And because they have their own unresolved conflicts, they tend to have this little means of the mind thing. I don't know about it. I can't worry about it. I have told my children where I fell short. I have gave them permission to heal from my dysfunction. I have identified, "Oh, you're dealing with rejection, because when I moved to Washington and you stayed here, then that's where I talk to my kids about all of that. The places where I fell short, because I don't want them to be like me, 57 years old, still trying to deal with childhood trauma. What really don't make sense, because it's not even that I'm dealing with childhood trauma, because like I say, I'm going through the healing process. Having to address it is what's the problem, because other people won't heal from it, or other people want to make it a point to misunderstand me. So I'm always finding myself, "No, that ain't how that happened." How they know? They weren't even there. Or, I'm always in these conversations, and it's mentally, spiritually, and financially draining. I can't even get stability under my feet, because every time I turn around, I'm back in this place of, okay, what I do this time? Okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? I'm over it. I don't care. I'm over it. This was the last straw for me. So honoring, let's go back to where I was at. Honoring your parents, but don't romanticize dysfunction. So that's what we've been doing, romanticizing dysfunction. And this is not just, I'm not the only person who deal with this. Just some of y'all just don't use your voice to expose stuff. I expose. That's just who I am. So honor your parents, but don't romanticize dysfunction. We romanticize dysfunction. We make excuses for all of that, and we act like it's okay. It's not okay for y'all to keep acting like I'm the bad person. I be the villain. The reason I could be the villain, because like I say, everybody heal at different places in their life. I don't even hold them responsible to their behaviors against me. I don't even hold them responsible because I know for a fact the places that they entertain, the settings, the friends that they haven't been exposed to the things that I have to get and understand that it's not normal to function like that. So I don't hold them to that. They choose to be like that. I just have to expose it because sometimes you can't hear from what you're not willing to expose. And I hold it in so much. And a lot of people have witnessed it. A lot of my friends or people who've been around me, they have seen it with their own eyes. But because I'm absent, they won't stand up for it. They'll come in, when they with them, they'll come in agreement with it. And then when they around me, well, you know, already know they ain't never liked you and this and that. But tell them that. Tell them what you see, because y'all all so dysfunctional that y'all use all this negative stuff to build each other up when you are damaging people along the way. I don't live my life trying to damage people. I've been damaged. If anything, I'm a fixer. I want to see you living your best life, doing whatever it takes for you to be in a place of peace. And I'm finally at a place where I prioritize peace. I don't care. I don't want to hear none of that. I lose my appetite, my energy, my focus. Every time somebody call my phone and be like, girl, you heard, I don't care. I don't want to hear. I shut it down. I don't want to hear the whole story. The only time that I'm going to entertain that is when it comes to my children. Because you're not going to keep trying to paint this narrative of me, this narrative version of me to my children. They know they mama. I wrote a book. My whole life has been exposed. And I hate that it messes the relationship I have with my nieces and nephews because they feel like they got to pick a side. And I don't want them to feel like that, so I just stay away. I just stay away from it because I don't want them to feel like they have to pick a side. But they know anytime hardship, anytime something happens that's tragic or devastating, I'm going to show up regardless of how somebody feels. And I'm going to regulate the situation because that's what I do. So I don't care how y'all feel about when I come around, how stuff change or stuff happen, because it's a standard. I have a standard for how I live my life, how I function, and how I show up because I have learned to love me and value what I do and make sure my name is respected at the end of the day. I give respect because I want to be respected. I don't care if you don't like me, but I'm not going to come and adjust to your dysfunction. I'm going to show up as who I am because I have been taught and I have experienced and I have been exposed to stuff that have taught me that I could make better choices and better decisions. So don't get mad when I come around and stuff has to meet a certain level of expectations. And then y'all talk about it. Oh, she come around and now everybody. That is the craziest thing I could hear because you should be trying to learn. I surround myself with people that's smarter than me, people that's been further than me, and people that's doing more than me. So I could learn. I'm a sponge. I don't never have to be the person in the room that know everything because when I show up, I'm trying to get something. Now, oftentimes I'm put in positions not because of my education, not because of my financial status, because God has put a sense of wisdom in me that allowed me to navigate in certain rooms. So that's God's favor. get mad at God for that. It has nothing to do with me. Half of the stuff that I have accomplished or did, it was shock to me because I didn't know that was in me. So sometimes when you expose yourself to different people, places, and experiences, you learn that you have some value. But when you stay around people who don't see themselves better than their condition or their environment, then that's when you find yourself questioning yourself. I'm no longer there. So, where was we at now? Stop waiting for the apology. That's where we at right now. We're going to stop waiting for the apology. Accepting an apology you may never get has to become your new normal. That's my new normal. Because like I said, nobody has to apologize to me for how they handled me or how they treated me or whatever. Because as a mature adult, I'm learning it's what made me. It's part of my process. God knows he could trust me with trouble. So those type of things really don't bother me. So I don't expect you to say, I'm sorry or none of that. I do it for my children. I do it if I feel like I offended somebody or if I feel like my actions going to cause you to stumble or shrink back or ever feel the way I felt, then I could apologize for it. I didn't mean, my delivery might have been wrong. I might have said it a little harsh, but I really apologize because I didn't mean it to come off like that. But because I see potential or because I see you in a different light, that's why it might have came off like that. See, I could say that because I genuinely want to see everybody winning. So if I offend, I have no problem to say, I apologize if you were offended. But I meant every word I said because what I failed to do is allow you to not live up to your best version of yourself on my watch. Don't be my friend and you stuck in the same condition. Don't call yourself my friend. I'm not even a friend if I leave you stuck in the same condition. So I don't even consider myself a good person if I know you are headed for self-destruction and I don't tell you. Now, the choices you make to stay there and not change, that's up to you. But for me to call myself somebody that care about you and allow it to happen, then no, I'm not that type of person. So if you're offended because I care enough to tell you the truth, then so be it. So that's another thing. So I'm not worried about that. Your healing cannot remain dependent upon someone else's willingness to admit what they did. You don't never have to admit. Because in people's mind, they don't feel like they're doing nothing wrong. And you can own that. I just know when I feel that you're doing something wrong to me, I either going to remove myself from the equation and not continue to expose myself to that level of dysfunction, because it's not no longer normal for me to put myself in environments where I know I'm not wanted. Sometimes people, well, I could say me, I used to be that person to show up just to rattle your cage because I know you don't like me. I used to be that person to just come and disrupt what's going on because I know you ain't gonna say the same stuff you said when I wasn't here. So that used to be me from a broken place. See, from a healed place is I'm not even going nowhere that I know I'm not wanted. I'm not entertaining nothing that's not gonna help me get to my next level, and I'm not gonna be sitting in no settings that can't help me grow or prosper. That's my choice. So it's not that I think I'm better. It's just that I make better decisions now that I know better. They say when you know better, you do better. But that's not in all cases, because sometimes we could know better and choose not to do better. I just choose to do better. So forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. This is another thing where we get it twisted. We think because we forgive you, we have to put ourselves back in those environments. The friendship has to go back to being the same. The family has to still do the barbecues and all that. No, forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It just means I chose to forgive the offense, so I'm no longer holding bitterness or unforgiveness or nothing towards you. Don't mean I have to be around you. Love doesn't require unlimited access. I could love you and still not deal with you. I could love you and never pick up my phone when you call, because I'm setting my own boundaries that's going to keep me at a place of peace. And peace doesn't require everybody understanding your decision. That's another part where we get it twisted. When you make a decision, that's a no is a complete sentence. It is what it is. I said no, and that's it. You don't have to understand or agree. It's about you, the individual, being at a place where they're content with the decision they made. Has nothing to do with how somebody feel about it, because feelings change. So stop allowing people, stop making yourself feel because people didn't understand your decision is something wrong with the decision. No, that's my decision. If you don't never speak to me or see me, I'm okay with the decision I made. And this all goes back to our belief systems. We got to change our belief systems. Sometimes letting go and letting God is necessary. When I say I surrender my all to God, it ain't just on Sunday. It's Monday through Sunday. Every day I live my life striving towards the mark. Nobody is perfect, but don't mean we can't try to strive towards being better than we was the next day. That's a lifestyle for me. I don't care how people feel about how I walk this walk. The only person that matters to me is God, because he's going to make sure he opens the right door, he closes the right door. He's the navigator of my life. So I can't make decisions based on the world system or the culture or traditions or family generation. Once I crossed over, he said he will give you, you're new in him. So those old things pass away. So all that old stuff, once I received Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I got a clean slate. I have a clean slate. So I'm not even obligated to the conversation that I'm sitting here having with y'all. But I know everybody is not there, and I feel like I owe what I know. So that's why I'm here having this conversation. Because a lot of people ain't going to tell you they healing journey. A lot of people ain't going to tell you where they fall short. A lot of people ain't going to be vulnerable. But that's my ministry. I'm Pastor Nina, not because I'm behind the pulpit preaching. I'm Pastor Nina because God trusts me to oversee a certain demographic of people that he has entrusted me with. I'm pastor, shepherd over people, decisions they make. That's why I'm a pastor. So don't, when y'all say he's supposed to be a pastor. No, I'm not supposed to be. I am one. I'm just not your everyday Sunday pastor. But the qualifications of pastoralship, I meet those every day in my walk. So let's go on and get rid of that narrative. So choose peace. Oh my God, this is the hardest thing to do in life. When you have came from generations of dysfunction, division, where you done sat around and heard your parents or your mama, your aunties on the phone talking about folks, and then next thing you know they he and ha and in their face and all of this stuff. All these things are seeds that were sown into us. Just like I was reading a book on Miles Monroe, and he was saying how we get on our kids about lying and different stuff we get on our kids about, but we never realize that we sowed the seed. Soon as somebody called you on the phone, the first thing you do was say, tell them I ain't here. So now you done taught your kids how to lie. Somebody knock at the door. What your mama doing? Oh, she sleep. And you sitting right there. Tell them I'm asleep. We sow this stuff into our kids, and then when it manifests and grow, then now we got a problem with it. So we have to be honest with ourselves. A lot of the things that we are seeing in our family, in our families, communities, and everything else, we created it. So at some point, you have to make a choice to be a better version, so you could see, so your kids could have something to grow towards. Just like, for instance, when my kids started saying they was going to the club and all of that, I came out the club. I'm not finna be in the club with my kids. When my son started making certain decisions in life, I had to change how I function and how I showed up in life. Because not only am I raising male children, I'm raising men to be somebody's wife. And that's going to be conditioned on how I conduct myself as a woman. So a lot of things that we're looking at is we built this foundation of this generation of kids. It ain't got nothing to do with what's out there. It's those little seeds that we have planted and allow our children to see. Just like when I decided to go to church and get saved and start living my life for God, I didn't just cross over and start doing church stuff. I had to take my children on a journey. Because just think, they knew I was a drug dealer. They knew when I cheated on my boyfriends. They knew about me being a wife. So my kids knew every portion, all those negative seeds that I sown in them, that had to be uprooted for them to see me on this side as a changed person. I had to continually change and give them something to look forward to. My kids ain't finna see me in an environment where they kicking it and drinking alcohol. Once that happens, I'm going to remove myself from the equation, because I ain't going to never be the mama that's going to sit up around my kids while they doing what they do at their age. That's just not me. So I remove. Some people could do it. I just can't, because I want to see my sons seeing what it looks like to sacrifice everything that we thought or considered to be fun, or this is just what we do. I wanted them to see the residue of what that leaves behind. So I don't ever stay in the same situations with my kids. I'm showing them the process. When I can't pay my bills, I ain't lying to my kids saying I can't pay my bills. They done see me with all the money. They done see me with no money. So when I'm struggling, I'm going to say, look, I ain't got it. Times is hard. I ain't got no clients. This ain't working. I'm trying to figure it out for myself, so they could see how I process through that struggle. So I don't always have it together. I don't. It's just not part of how my life is set up. God ain't never put me on a straight line. Some of y'all started from the gate. You had the job for 30 years. You got the good credit. You bought the house. You married. Your kids are on the college. That's fine. That's your path. That's not my path. God has always had me like this my entire life, and I have came to accept the fact that that's just who I am. And what I realize is a lot of people who are unstable in life, but they can't trust you enough to tell you that they having a difficult time, that they're struggling, because we are so judgmental to people not living to a certain standard. I'm over that. If I'm broke, I'm just broke. That's just what it is. It is what it is. If I got to eat baked potatoes and with some bacon and cheese for the week, it is what it is. Because I have learned to be content in all things, through all situations, because at the end of the day, only what I do for him is going to last. So I don't keep up with the Joneses. I don't do that. That ain't never been my lifestyle. Y'all know if I'm trying to do something for the community or whatever, if I got it, I got it. If I don't, I'll be like, could y'all help me do this, so whatever? Because I done sold many seeds. I done sold many seeds. And not because I expected something from it. I done sold many seeds because that's just who I am. If I got it, you got it. That's just how I always been. And God is stripping me of that because that's trauma bonding. That's when you give out of your not enough, or when you overextend yourself and you always the go-to person and all of that, that's not real normal. That's trauma. So my trauma has always allowed me to give to where God say, no, I'm going to take it all so you could see your value. So you could see who you are with nothing. So you could come to the place that I'm calling you to. Because long as you got it, you're going to have a whole team of people that's there. But soon as you ain't got it, you're going to see what I'm talking about. And during those times of struggle, that's where my character was built. That's where my character started. That's when I started falling in love with Nina. See, I didn't know Nina. Matter of fact, let me fix that. That's when I started falling in love with Nina Tanya. Nina was the representative. All this time, Nina has been the representative. She has been the person who hid the mama wound. She had been a person who hid the dysfunction in the family. She had been a person who hid, even in marriage, she didn't know how to love. Nina is all that. See, Nina is all what the people like. Because people don't want to sit with themselves, so they like Nina. See, Tanya is the person that people can't stand because Tanya know her value, Tanya know her worth, Tanya know what she bring to the table, Tanya know what she gonna take to the table. See, Tanya has learned how to be the best version of herself by putting in the work daily. So that's another thing. I love Tanya. Nina, I can't stand Nina. Like some of y'all don't like Nina, I don't care for her either. So at some point you have to choose peace over people. You cannot choose the family you were born into, but as an adult, you can decide whether certain family relationships are assets to your growth or liabilities to your peace. That doesn't mean you stop loving. I ain't stopped loving, but if you're not an asset to my growth, I can't deal with you. And you're a liability to my peace? Oh, no. Not dealing with you. I don't care what you got going on. But at some point, you have to choose you. And I have chose me. And that don't mean you stop loving. It means you learn that love and boundaries can exist in the same place. So love and boundaries can exist in the same place. So let's go to the spiritual part. Kingdom response. Romans 13:8 remind us, owe no man anything but to love them. With that being said, no matter what they do, how they treat you, how they feel about you, how they don't come to the rescue, or how they feel you should show up for them, or how many lies they think you done told, and how much they thought you gossip about them, or whatever it is, at the end of the day, I don't owe y'all nothing but to love you in spite of how you feel. So love them without caring their dysfunction. I don't have to carry it. Forgive them without returning to an unhealthy cycle. I refuse to entertain that stuff anymore. It's unhealthy for me. Pray for them without participating in confusion. You can pray for people with a genuine love. Even if you feel bitterness or hatred, you still can say, God, I don't even know how to feel towards this person, but I lift them up to you, praying that your will be done in their life, that you relieve me of the burden to even carrying this. Father God, I pray wealth, security, whatever it is you got for them, that's what I want them to have. And that's it. That's the prayer right there. Release them without becoming bitter. I'm not bitter. I was broken. I was sad. I was hurt. But I'm not never bitter. I'm not a bitter person because I don't hold on. I don't hold on to stuff. That's not me. Set boundaries without becoming hateful. I don't hate nobody. That ain't in me to hate you. I could dislike your behaviors, but I don't hate you. And heal so the dysfunction doesn't continue through you. This is the choice I'm making right now, today, at 4:20 p.m. Memphis, Tennessee time. I'm healing. Life lesson. Somebody in a family has to decide that the function ends here. I made that decision. You may not be able to restore every sibling relationship. You may never receive the apology. You may never change the family narrative. And everyone may never understand your boundaries. Y'all get it? They might not never understand. But you can heal. You can forgive. You can let go. You can love from a healthy place. And you can choose peace. I choose peace. Thank y'all for listening to me. I hope y'all got something from it. And I hope that this message is received in love. And if not, that ain't my problem. I release everything. Whatever it is on my side, in my heart, I release it. And I hope some of y'all who's dealing with this same stigma of being the black sheep of the family, I hope y'all could take that narrative away and turn it into a positive, because sometimes you have to be the example of what healing looks like, what doing something different looks like, despite how people may feel about it. But at the end of the day, you're going to be at peace.